Couple minutes late, but just because of the coffee. Not our fault. It's physics. Physics' fault. That's what I'm blaming.
Okay.
So, this is the Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. We are live. We do this twice a week at 4 o'clock, Wednesdays and Sundays, right here on this Jimmy Doane Show Facebook channel. Also, I'll post a timestamp copy of the show up on YouTube and Twitter, so you can skip around to your favorite subjects and over the ones that you're bored stiff of, because the news these days, right? Anyway, today is the 1st of December. Happy birthday, Mike! Woohoo! Hope you guys are having a good time out there on Facebook. I'm here in the studio with Dr. Doane. What is happening today?
Lots of things happening. Lots of things happening. A couple of things before we really get started. One is we're going to go over to England for a minute.
Okay, what's this?
The bystander chases the London Bridge terrorist with a 5-foot narwhal tusk.
Yes, saw that.
I thought it was interesting that, I guess he just happened to have one.
No, he ripped it off the wall.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was a chef, a Polish chef, mind you, there. And when this guy started blasting people, the first thing, and it's interesting because a lot of people were trying to pin this guy down and everything, but here this guy comes out with this 5-foot-long narwhal tusk and starts to beat him with it. And so anyway,
that guy got sliced up a couple times too.
Well, yeah. Well, finally the cop showed him and shot him.
Yeah. No, I mean the narwhal guy. And,
oh yeah, did he?
Yeah, and so did the. Now it turns out that one of the guys in the video, one of the guys who took the knife away from the stabber and ran off, was himself a convicted killer.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, apparently there was a killer convention in the area. Well, not a killer convention, but there was a recidivism convention or something.
Okay, right. Oh, you mean like an AA group or
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
And that's why the guy, the actual killer, had a ankle monitor on him at the time.
Well, he'd been released. He'd already been convicted.
Yeah.
In 2012 or something.
Yeah.
Of terrorism.
Yeah.
And he got out after like 3 years or something.
After half of his 16
Half the
years.
16. Okay.
But they've reformed that law over there. Actually,
You think?
In 2015 they reformed it, but he was sentenced in 2013.
Yeah.
And so he got it out under the old rules. Some jurisdictions.
Khan!
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
his name.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, of course, he was finally shot dead by police and so forth. Usman Khan, 28. So that's interesting. So this Polish guy and ISIS has claimed responsibility.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it. No proof yet, but they just said, yeah, that was one of our guys. And so one of their guys got whatever it is. Now, this is going to England, and this is kind of a little round thing in England.
Okay.
Sir David Attenborough says it's too late
to
reverse climate change. Now, if you've watched, I think it's on Netflix or one of those, he's got a whole bunch of series on the planet.
Right.
He's traveled all over for years. I mean, for 50 years, this guy has gone every place. And lately, in the last 2 years, he's been doing climate change, horrible things are happening, so forth and so on. And now he has come out and said, we're done.
That's it.
We're done.
Hit.
He says it's too late to reverse climate change and warned of mass civil unrest if steps aren't taken to address the crisis. The natural historian added that the best we can hope for is maybe we can slow it down some, which, I don't know. I think civil unrest on a great scale and mass immigration on a great scale, mass migration, on a great scale, I think we'll go on finding enough food. But it may not be precisely the choice we would take freely, which I'm not sure what that's all about. It's too late to intervene to reverse it, not only in my lifetime, but in the next lifetime. And so this is a guy who is one of the most respected environmentalists you can possibly imagine, and he said, we're done.
That's it. Well, as you can see, what I'm doing now is unfolding the website from NASA. On our play, there it is, NASA. You can see up left-hand corner. This is NASA, and this is their global warming website, basically. And as you can see, I have effects. This is facts. These are facts. Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well,
good.
We're going to go through a
Sure,
couple
yeah.
of them here, and these are the effects here. And so as we scroll down through the effects of climate change, as you can see right there, the effects of climate change. Here's future effects, and the number one effect is change will continue. Change will continue through this century.
Okay.
Okay, which obviously is not an effect. That is what we're talking about. Is
Right.
the change that's continuing. The question is, what is the effect of the change? Okay?
Right.
So let's scroll down a little further. Number two effect.
Okay.
Temperatures will continue to rise. Again, that's a change.
Right.
That's the change we're talking about.
Right.
Let's get to some effects, NASA. How about some effects? Some actual effects, right? Okay, here we go.
People will die.
Well, frost-free season and growing season will lengthen.
Boy, that's a terrible thing.
Terrible effect. The number one actual effect on the NASA website
Longer
is
growing season.
more food.
Yeah, more food, right.
More food for that's the number one effect, right?
Yeah?
Okay, here I'm going to scroll down a little further. Here you can see the fourth effect is changes in precipitation patterns. No, NASA, no. What we're saying is we understand there are changes. What are the effects of the changes, NASA? Please, let's get back to some actual effects. Here's number five effect, or second actual effect.
Okay.
More droughts and heat waves. Okay, there's some negative information there. Finally, we got something. But if you read the first line here, it says, and fewer cold waves and less intense cold waves.
Of course, what's interesting, as we speak, they are having a historical cold wave up north of here that is going through
You're
the
sure it's not historic?
a historic? What'd I say?
Historical.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Since we're going grammar Nazi here. You
well,
opened the door.
No, I did. You're right. You're right. Shouldn't have done it. But that's right. But anyway, as we speak, they are, you look at the plows and everything, the sand, 20-foot lifts, heights of snow.
Snow everywhere.
Drifts, yeah, snow everywhere. So this is the...
There you go. So now that particular cold wave would have been more intense were it not for the global changing recently, according to this.
Okay.
According to this right here. Now let's go down a little bit more. I want to go, here's the next one. The next effect is hurricanes will become stronger and more intense. That's what it says. Well, let's go over here. I just went to Google and I Googled hurricane intensity through the years, and I picked several random. Okay, well here, this is the forest fires in Brazil. That's an actual satellite image.
Okay.
No, it's not. Of course, the whole that's like an asteroid impact from hell or something.
Right. Yeah.
No, this is just an artist rendition, but just for fun. But here is the slideshow of hurricanes through the decades, and as you can see, it doesn't really appear. Okay, now this particular graph is from the Skeptical Science guy, who is the one that went off the charts there. That one is from the guy who says that there's definitely global warming and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Mr. Cook, he's the 97% consensus guy.
Okay.
And that was obviously a hockey stick graph.
Okay.
Well, when you compare that one with every other graph that I pulled off of Google from random sources, you see either flatlining or decrease. Here's another one that's a slight little increase, like one standard deviation. Here, this one's through the presidents from Grant, a nice downward trend. Here's a downward trend from the 30s. In other words, no, there is not an increase in hurricanes. Anybody who lives in Florida can tell you we have not had an increase.
No, we've had, let me tell you, and what's interesting about it is when you think about the ones that we have had, so to speak, they missed us. They missed us.
Well, and even the ones
you could have 100 hurricanes a year, but if they stay out in the Atlantic, who cares?
No problem.
No
exactly.
problem.
And one of these graphs is landfall, major hurricanes landfall. One of them is by type, and it shows you look. It's just it hasn't happened. So I'm sorry, NASA. That's just not the reality. That's just not the reality. So oops. Where did we go here? UK, where was I? I had my NASA, oh, I know where it was. It was down here. So And then this is my favorite one, which is one that people always get wrong, which is this is NASA again. Remember, sea level will rise 1 to 4 feet.
Kind of a broad range there.
Well, not only is it a broad range, but it's a small range. I'm sorry, 1 foot, but this is by 2100.
Yeah.
Look, I don't mean to point out the obvious here, but it's been 1 foot. That's been the normal sea level rise for the last 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is it'll either be normal or up to 4 times normal, but still that's 80 years from now.
Right.
And this is not Miami underwater or anything like that. 4 feet, that's 1 meter, 1.3 meters. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is NASA. And then finally, the final effect they have here is Arctic likely to become ice-free, which again is a nice positive because that opens up a whole bunch of shipping lanes and drilling and all kinds of stuff.
What about the polar bears?
Yeah, exactly. I say we fly up there with our helicopters and drop all of our plastic straws on their habitat.
Yeah, right.
That's my solution to the polar bears. So, in other words, not a lot of negative effects coming out of NASA anyway, and so it's a little bit, I think, deceptive for everybody to to say it's the end of the world here when even our NASA people, who we know are government influenced, can't come up with more than one negative factor, which is offset in the same paragraph, that being the droughts versus the freezing.
Right.
As we know, freezing is difficult to deal with. Droughts is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So,
well, it will be. Unfortunately, I probably won't be around long enough to. Of course, even if you do, say you show up here, say I'm in my 80s or whatever it is, and when the end of the world, quote unquote, when AOC's end of the world shows up. And of course, you say, "Wait! Didn't you say we're all over?" And of course, they're going to move the goalposts.
Absolutely, they have to, because there's no way you can't. That's an unsustainable argument for how it's going to destroy us.
Yeah, and of course, again, the ingenuity of mankind. When you think about it, you look at what the Netherlands did, for instance, with their low country. It's underwater,
right?
And yet they're no problem.
And that was a centuries-old technology relative to today.
Right.
You think about the changes between 1920 and 2000. Absolutely unpredictable, and to think of what it's going to be, the difference between now, 2020, and 2100, it's going to seem like magic.
Well, not only that, you're right, exactly. Well, not only that is, my question is always, what if you're wrong?
Well, and then there's that. But this is if they're all right. I mean, if we believe everything negative that's put out there by NASA,
But look, you don't quite understand. We have the new person, Greta.
I know, she's going to let us know. How dare we?
16. How dare you? 16 years old.
Stolen my childhood, and
she has no childhood life. She's 16.
Well, not only that, but she gets to sail across the Atlantic in nice ships and stuff, and all this kind of fun childhood stuff. Wait till she sees what stealing her childhood looks like. But
yeah, that's right. Well, it is okay. Well, I'm not going to. I did have another complete thing here that had been written about the planet has already reached climate change tipping points. As leading scientists warn we're headed for a catastrophic domino effect. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to. You already talked.
Well, here are the tipping points.
And, there they are. Yeah, you got them.
And I can't even as I look at them here. You can see there they are. And
I understand Arctic sea ice, Greenland ice sheet. Good luck on that. Mm-hmm. Boreal forest. What's that? Where are those? What's that?
Well, obviously what they're saying is that once the forests get down to a certain level, it kicks off some type of compounding effect.
Of course, there's something else, and that is if the carbon dioxide is all over the place,
then the forests come back.
Pretty much the forests come back. Yeah. Then they have meridional overturning circulation. What the hell is that? And parts of East Antarctica. I mean, it's just, and they're not even talking about deep water in the Antarctic, release of methane stored, so forth and so on. But they've got the active tipping points. They're already here.
Right.
Done, tipped, gone, doomed.
Well, this is 9 tipping points out of the 18 tipping points that they named, which I just have a question. If any of them is an actual tipping point, how come you need the other 17?
Right, exactly.
If it's
right.
a tipping point, then you're tipped, right?
You're done.
But and,
No, that's
and if
it.
9 of them
I
are
hate
already
to be,
triggered,
I hate to go back to this guy that did the hockey stick thing, which is a one note Charlie. But a tipping point is if you've got a glass, and you tip it. It breaks.
Over. That's it.
So it's done.
That's it.
It's done.
There's nothing else. And so what they haven't told us here is how many of the tipping points. Is this all the tipping points? Is it only 18?
Yeah.
And then how many tipping points does it take to tip over something?
Yeah.
They haven't said that at all, and it's because they don't know. This is all speculation.
Well,
This
it's
is
all about control. I mean,
I agree.
They want our money, all of our money.
Yeah.
To fix this.
It
thing.
certainly smacks of that on every level.
It's at a point of a gun too. Think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not talking about. And I was listening to a podcast here the other day, and it might have been the McLaughlin group, and they were talking about look, the real pollution when you look at China, for instance. All this pollution over there, and Eleanor comes out and says, "Well, they've made great strides." And I'm sitting there, yeah, well, so have we. We've made great strides too in tamping down this stuff. And of course, as far as she's concerned, China is we don't care about them.
She believes the crazy press, not even NASA. She's not obviously even looking at the NASA website, because all you got to do is look at that, and you should gain a sense of calm about the alarm that's being
Well, the thing I also look at is, and I understand that there are, I suppose if you happen to be on the island in the Bahamas when it blew over there, you might think, geez, this is climate change.
Sure.
Of course, that was like 20 square miles or something.
Yeah, that's weather.
I know, that's right. No, I know, but what I'm saying is that basically I like to ask a lot of these people, how are you personally being affected by this?
Right. Well, nobody. And I love that on McLaughlin Group they had Clarence came out and said, "Oh well," he was talking to Pat, and he says, "Pat, if you don't believe in global warming, I got a nice piece of property I'd like to sell you." And I'm thinking, well, where? Come on, bring it on.
Yeah.
Where's your waterfront property? I bet you Clarence does have some waterfront property, and I bet he's not selling it.
I bet he's not selling
That's right, and I bet if he
right.
was selling it, it wouldn't be for a pittance. It would be millions of dollars, and that's all you have to do is look around the globe at the real estate on the water and the people who live on the water, and you can see nobody is buying the water rise situation. And all you gotta do is look back and look, NASA, 1 foot, 2,100.
Well, but you look at the price of homes on the water, on the Atlantic here, for instance, millions of dollars. People pay way extra to live on the water. Yeah.
Nobody's worried about it.
No, that's for sure. Okay, moving on. I'm going to come back to England for a minute.
Sure.
Queen is to retire in 18 months for Charles to become the Prince Regent. Now, I don't know anything about dukes and duchesses and regents and this stuff. I suppose it's a big deal, but Prince Charles is prepared to take over leadership of the royals when the Queen turns 95. And she's going to retire from active duty, but she'll still be the monarch. And so they're talking about, apparently Charles had a key role. The Queen's favorite son was Andrew.
Oh, really?
Not so much anymore.
Yeah, boy, he's retiring from stuff left
Everything
and
right and left. Well, it says
which
here.
looks really guilty.
God, I'll tell you. Well, he had that disastrous BBC interview, which of course everybody said it was a car wreck.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but apparently it was. And all you have to know is that he's retiring from everything.
Yeah, he says retiring Prince Andrew from public life fed speculation. He's preparing to become a shadow king. Let's see, Prince Andrew, which you see him day-to-day royal affairs. Well, no, that would be Prince Charles.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's the second.
Yeah, he's the second. And soon to become Prince Regent. But it says here that not even Prince Andrew, the favorite son, that he's retiring from almost everything. I forget exactly what it is, but
big mistake.
He's retiring from all his activities that he's been, charity things. He set up dozens of them, and on the board of everything.
Mistake. Should not look that just makes him look completely guilty.
He probably is.
Well, he may be, but even so, man, you let him kick you out. I would
Well, I think that the Royals had something to say about it because I don't know if they're on thin ice or not, but they get like millions of dollars from the Treasury.
Right. Well,
And there's some people that are saying, really, we didn't need to pay for that. I mean, that's, it's bad enough that we pay for our guy in the White House, but at least he does something.
Well, and look, they don't get that much cash. Trump gives all his back to various charities, but it's on what, 400,000 per year these days?
But still though, when you consider all the other Secret Service stuff and the flying around. And,
yeah.
I mean, he gets untold millions and that kind of stuff.
Well,
the Queen, though, one of the things you have to realize is that the Queen is filthy rich.
Yeah.
We talked about this a year or so ago, I remember, but that she owns all of is it all the geese?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
She owns all the geese. I mean, in England, just all of them. But geese, that's hers. So
if it's a goose, it's hers.
I mean, that's it. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she doesn't siphon off that much from them. It's
Well, she owns all kinds of land. She's got, she's a landlordess and everything. I mean, she gets lots and lots of money. But of course, there's another 30 or 40 royals floating around. I won't say there's as many as there are in Saudi Arabia.
No.
There's like 1,000 of them in the Saudis, that are...
they're way richer.
Yeah. Okay, moving back.
What else?
We just finished up with Thanksgiving before, and we had Black Friday, which it turned out interesting that Black Friday was up and down. One of the things they found out on Black Friday was as I understand it, that even though tomorrow is Cyber Monday supposedly, apparently the online selling was phenomenal, up like 20% over last year. Well, of course, what happened was, interestingly enough, the workers in the UK and in Germany walked out.
Okay.
And, they walked out which I think this is one of those market things. Apparently, as you know, when you see these cadaverous warehouses. Yeah, warehouses, which are, like 3 football fields and a lot of robots and everything. But there's people in there that have a schedule. They wear like a little ticket to tell them where they're going and where they go next and everything. And they're overworked. They claim they're overworked. They get hurt. They fall down, and then somebody comes by and scoops them up and takes them someplace. But so anyway, what they did is they walked out. And I was thinking, kind of an interesting thing. They on Black Friday.
What? How many were? I mean, what?
Well, apparently it was a UK-wide protest organized to coincide with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, demanding an end to the appalling working conditions. In another blow, hundreds of employees at distribution centers across Germany walked out along a long simmering battle for better pay. The trade union coordinated the British demonstrations to take across 2 of the busiest shopping centers. Workers, and then they say workers are breaking bones, being knocked unconscious, being taken away in ambulances, blah, blah, blah. Amazon has spent a fortune on fluffy adverts saying what a great place it is to work. Why not spend the money on making their warehouses less dangerous? Well, well, here's the deal.
It's a pittance what they spend on advertising relative to their warehouses.
That's number one, but also the thing that I look at is in the market system, you can walk out.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to stay there. If the working conditions are appalling,
right,
go get a job at McDonald's.
That's how you know it's BS.
Yeah.
It's because there's no guard. This is not Foxconn.
No.
There's not suicide nets out the windows or anything.
Yeah, suicide nets.
No. Look, you can literally walk over to the door and leave. And that's it. Yeah. Nobody will say anything. They'll cut you your final check, and you're done.
You're out there.
And that's it. It's so easy. So every time I see a story about how appallingly Amazon workers are treated, I always think, well, leave. People don't understand the market system. It's so easy. There's no force here.
No. Well, it is interesting because one of the first times this ever happened literally in the free market system, we've mentioned this before, and that was I think it was in 1913, Ford started making the Model Ts, I think. And it was a assembly line and everything. The turnover was like 80%. And they were being paid $2.50 a day, the workers there. What he did was he raised the pay to $5 a day and shortened the workday to 8 hours. Pure free. He was pilloried in the Wall Street Journal. What are you doing? You crazy man. Well, of course, the absenteeism dropped to zero, and the productivity went through the ceiling. And he made 15 million Model Ts or whatever it was. But I mean, this was the response. This was before any laws were involved in any of that kind of stuff. There was no NACB or whatever all that stuff. But he did it because he wanted to make more money.
Right.
And he basically doubled the wage to $5 a day. Well, I don't know if you noticed it, but in 1913, when he first started with the Model Ts, they were around $800. By 1922, I think, they were down to $250. Now, I don't care who you are, but at $250 and you're making $5 a day, do the math. You're buying a car.
Yeah.
Just to watch that.
Well, it's like, look, the point is that the free market solves those problems.
Totally.
It does. And people, I know the socialists don't think that workers have any bargaining power, but they do, because companies need workers. And I have no problem with free association in terms of unions for people to get together and want to collectively bargain. That's great. They can do that if they want to. But you don't have to have weird laws in place that force people to pay.
Well, yeah, and of course what happens is, as always, there's always a tipping point on some of that stuff. And one was the Carnegie Steel, which I forget when that was, but the workers organized and walked out of the steel plant, or they barricaded themselves in. And then the Pinkertons came by, private people, and started shooting people up. And
well, if you barricade yourself in, then you're taking someone else's property.
You're trespassing.
Yeah, that's conversion, which is basically theft. You're taking control of someone else's property, the factory, and you don't have to do that if you have any actual power. You just walk out, and if they can't replace you,
well, that was the big deal, of course, as you know. That's where the scabs show up and everything, because there's always people willing to take the job. I mean, and that's what keeps the wages in check.
Well, there's always people willing to take the job until there's full employment, and then once there's full employment, then you got to raise rates.
Yeah.
You got to raise your wages, or I mean, there's just
not only that, as productivity increases with new machinery, sometimes there's a learning curve. Yet it might take you 2 or 3 weeks or a month or something to master the job. Well, you don't want to lose that guy on a whim,
right?
So, or girl, or trans.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I got something to talk about that.
Okay.
A little bit here on AOC.
Okay.
She's already raised $1.4 million in re-election funds in just 3 months, and outstripping Pelosi and Schiff in her re-election. Now, remember now, she's running. Pelosi and Schiff both have to be re-elected next November.
Okay.
A little less than a year from now. Despite raising such a large amount, the majority of donations are under $200. So she has no big donors.
Nice grassroots campaign.
It's just amazing. The figures make troubling reading for Pelosi, who's tried to minimize the significance of newcomers. After the freshman and her squad voted against emergency border funding bill, Pelosi turned in an interview with the New York Times, fumed in an interview with the New York Times. All these people have is their public and whatever their Twitter world. That's all they've got. They're nobodies. They don't have any following. They're 4 people, and how many votes do they got? Well, of course, she wrote back and she says, the public is whatever is called public sentiment, and wielding the power to shift is how we actually achieve meaningful change. But my point is that Nancy is sitting there. You got nobody. You got nothing. Well, you got $1.4 million.
Yeah, and she's got 3 million followers on Twitter.
Right.
Look, when she talks, she's like E.F. Hutton at this point. If she busts out something, man, everybody tunes in.
It is really.
Everybody backs her.
It's really.
She's got a wave if she can sort of stay on top.
And I think, and I'm sure that Pelosi at her peril dismisses this as merely a four-woman squad.
Well, we'll see how they do this time around. I think, from what I remember, AOC is in a pretty safe district, although she could be primaried, so to speak.
Right. Well, they're desperately hunting around for a primary person, but with this kind of a war chest. Speaking of which, I've been watching again season 7 of West Wing. Don't give me this.
Go ahead.
But they are talking.
This show is sponsored by West Wing.
West Wing.
ABC.
No, seriously, if you get a chance, it's on Netflix, and it's the whole thing. It takes like 7 years, but now they're talking about when the new guys are running for president and how they do. It's all behind the scenes stuff, the way it works. And this is in today. We're in the this idea so forth. It's phenomenal to see how this stuff works in the background, and the shenanigans that goes on, and these, you have to understand, the people that wrote West Wing were in the administration.
I know.
I mean, these were the ultimate insiders, and so those scripts were insider scripts, and all the shenanigans that went on, and you think about, well, if we do this, then that guy's going to come up. We got 3 votes over here. Can we take the money out? Blah blah blah. It's unbelievable. Anyway, so that's AOC. Now. Let's see. We got another thing on. Prince Andrew has been again. Another Virginia Roberts came with an explosive panorama interview. She surfaced showing her repeating her claim that Prince Andrew slept with her in an hour-long special, which airs on BBC on Monday. Now I'm just trying to think. That must be tomorrow, Monday, I think. Was recorded before the Duke's disastrous Newsnight interview, in which he denied the allegation. He's withdrawn from public duties, as we said before, criticized for failing to show remorse for his friendship or much empathy with Epstein's alleged victims during his television appearance. So he of course has said he's had to distance himself of the patronages have all said, you don't have to be on our board anymore. We really don't want your name on the letterhead. And so that's interesting. So it was interesting that this woman apparently has told people before, and now she's come out again and has come right out and said, look, this is what happened on 3 occasions. So of course I'm wondering, well, now I can certainly understand when you are
one occasion,
one for sure, but when you're dealing with super powerful people, it doesn't take much for you to be, if you're some 17-year-old waif, and here you are in the castle, for
with
God's
the billionaires.
Sakes. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, look, except I can buy it for the first time, but then you can't talk them out of one plane ticket. You can't talk them into a credit card that you could buy a one-way ticket somewhere and get out from under the rapings. I mean, was it just Prince Andrew the one time, or did she live there the 3 times, or did she live there and a bunch of other people? And I guess we'll see on Monday.
Yeah.
But to me, it's look, I'm not questioning that it happened or anything like that, but it seems a little bit odd that she would let it continue. I mean, twice. And then after the second time, she couldn't convince anybody to get her out of there. Was she held captive the whole time? I guess we'll see. Like I said.
Yeah. I just think that when you have somebody that is that intimidated, totally intimidated, it's almost...
Look, people can keep him... And he had an island. So, for all we know, there was no way on or off. Nothing. No, you were the slave. You were in there. They threw you in the dungeon, and that's where they kept you, and then brought you out for the princes and stuff like that. But I guess we'll find out.
Well, of course, we won't find out for one of the main people. Cause we don't know where he
expired, right?
Yeah, he expired when we were there. Okay, this is another little thing that has to do with our lovely TSA and other things.
Aha!
Trans travelers. Yeah, look at that.
This is air traffic over a day.
Jesus, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, those 2 are crashing. No, they're not.
Yeah, right.
Trans travelers face invasive airport security at Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Discrimination concerns are mounting among the growing use of technology, security and immigration service that fail to recognize trans and non-binary people. What's non-binary? What?
That's just another word for not what I was born as.
Okay, non-binary.
Yeah, I mean,
You're not one of these, and you're not one of those. You're
right. Just something else. And they're not even going to tell you what they are or define it in any way, because then it could be a negative. So non-binary is.
Yeah. Okay. This person here, Cadence Bear, will not be among the 27 million Americans flying this Thanksgiving to see family. They don't tell his or her because she cannot deal with the humiliation of her body scrutinized and laughed at airport security.
Well, no, she sounds like that's a binary.
Well, here's the deal. A trans woman gave up flying after the TSA officer identified her as a woman for the body scanner, which triggered an alarm because her groin did not match the machine's version of the female body. They saw something like hanging down between her legs. I was stopped in front of the entire line of TSA people while TSA agents touched my crotch repeatedly. The security officer finally started laughing himself and pressed the blue button so the machine would stop registering my penis as a potential threat. And the TSA agents were still laughing as I walked away. Yeah. But, okay.
Look, I have a couple questions. Number one, you don't get sideways looks as you're walking down the road anyway? I mean, isn't that what you're used to? If you're a trans person, I mean, don't you get that all the time?
No, I don't know. I mean,
you get a pimple on your face, people look at you weird all the time. I guess. You have a birthmark or something. And so I got to imagine if you're trans walking around that you get a lot of sideways looks.
Okay, maybe.
If people can
a lot of them do. But of course, a lot of them you just really can't tell.
Well, if that's the case, then great. Then
I can't tell until you go through the scanner.
Well, and there you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my thought is you can do whatever you want, but people don't owe you no laughs. I mean, that's... If someone wants to laugh at you, too bad.
Yeah,
like that, you shouldn't have worn those clothes or whatever it is you did. It's an involuntary response, and it's natural, and it is what it is, and you're not going to change it by jumping up and down.
Well, it is interesting because, as you know, when you were kids, or even when I was a kid, I'm 4 or 5 years old. Look at that man, honey.
Right.
And your mother said, "You don't look at that."
Sure.
And they teach you, to ignore that kind of stuff.
Sure. And that's the way it should be. But at the same time, if somebody doesn't react like that, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Kill him. Yeah, that's right. I kill you.
That's right.
Okay. Now it was interesting because I was. We had your friends here today earlier, and Jack has got 3 kids, and I was looking at this article here. Not enough babies being born to replace the U.S. population as the birth rate plunges to a 30-year low. Now we've known this for 20 or 25 years. It takes 2.2, so to speak, children to replace a population in order to keep it stable, so you're supposed to have 3 kids is what you're supposed to do, and that way the population can grow. And of course that's kind of important once you've got Social Security, which is a mandatory retirement, and the only way you can pay the pensions is if you have more people working. Well, of course, if the population starts to shrink and you have fewer and fewer. Now, when Social Security was founded in the 30s, there was something like, and for a long time, the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and even the 60s, there was something like anywhere from 15 to 22 people working for each retiree. Now it's 2.5. And so, I mean, to every 2.5 people have to support a retiree with grandma was 30 years in retirement, So anyway, the point is that the population, this is the death knell for a population. And, you worry about your climate change, your global warming, blah, blah, blah. But the simple fact is, if you start to extinguish your own population, that's it. You can do no climate change and still go down the toilet.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people out there who still don't quite understand the concept that additional people adds resources to the universe.
Right.
It doesn't take things away. People think, well, you have an additional person, they need more space, they need food, they need shelter, clothing, all those resources has to go to that person. That's all true. The thing is, an additional person, when you factor them into the workforce, on average, adds more than they take away. And of course, we know that's true because now we have billions of people and we have way more resources than we used to have.
Right.
And that's just the way it's always going to be because
well, as I said, I've talked about this before. The big scare tactic that people just don't understand has to do with the Malthusian doctrine. And Malthus said that we're doomed because population increases exponentially and food production increases arithmetically, and therefore they split apart.
Diverge.
Well, what they didn't realize was you don't get an increase in population. Generally speaking, you do not get an increase in population until the food rises.
Well, and not only that, but he wasn't taking into account things like technology.
Oh no, not at all.
Innovation.
Well,
and
but that's
GMOs.
That's
genetics.
That's exactly right.
And crop rotation and all the things that we've come up with to double and double again in geometric growth our food and situation. And now, even with 6 billion people on the planet, there are mounds of food sitting in warehouses just rotting away. There's cheese and rice and all kinds of stuff. And 6 months ago, we were talking about pigs and pork, bacon everywhere, just sitting in warehouses. There's more than enough food because we invented things like tractors, and it allows one person to plow a field that used to take 100 people. And so one person now produces 100 times as much food as they used to.
Well, the other thing, of course, that goes with that is when you get rid of your fossil fuels, who's going to run the tractors again?
Well, right. That's why one of the reasons you can't get rid of the fossil fuels, because you can't run a tractor on wind power very well. I mean, you can try if we get the storage thing going.
This is no problem. I'm telling you, this is the way you work it. You got this big monster combine machine, right? I mean, it's really huge. You get a couple of cows out there.
You're right. Pull that thing right there. Exactly.
Well, of course, you got to get rid of the cows too because of the methane.
Yeah, well, that's it's not going to happen. Now, I did on one nice front, as we've reported a while back on John B. Goodenough's new innovation in battery technology.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, now Goodenough, you may recall, was the guy who he invented like the transistor or something.
But something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Different other kind of battery. Yeah,
and the lithium-ion battery was his thing.
Right.
But he had another thing before that was super influential. But either way, he's come up with a new one, and we've talked about batteries being on the order of 2 to 7 times more efficient in terms of the energy density that they're able to hold. If they get 7 times more efficient, we're in business. Twice is good, but maybe not good enough, so to speak.
Yeah.
But apparently Tesla is trying to adopt Goodenough's design into his
Well, what you should do if you want to is to go to Eric Peters' website. He's an automotive expert, been around for 100 years. He used to write a column for Road and Track, I think, or something like that, but ericpeters.com or something. And he talks about, if you think that your electric cars are going to save you, you're out of your mind. And he goes through all the reasons why they're really expensive. And so the thing about it is, when you realize the amount of energy that's in a gallon of gas, and I just don't believe that you can get that kind of energy out of any kind of battery.
Well, I think
that size.
Right. Well, we certainly don't have the technology today to do that.
No.
But we might be able to get there with carbon nanotubes. I'm hopeful that in 50 years we'll have that kind of battery technology.
50 years, give me a break. I'm just saying, yeah. Because if you think about it,
because what is
this? Are you talking about the Jetsons here?
Right,
exactly. Literally, when you went to the, I don't know what it was, the 1938 or the 1961 World's Fair, they were talking about what was going to be happening now.
Today, right.
And it was flying everywhere, anti-gravity. It was looking like Star Wars, for God's sake.
This is one piece of technology, a limiting reagent, if you will, in our technology right now is the battery technology.
Okay.
And it hasn't increased significantly since the lithium-ion invention, which is 4 or 5 decades ago. So we're due for something. We've got a lot of people working on it now. You got the Tesla out there, Elon, and everybody's. If they can turn the corner on that, they can do a lot of good. But you still have to produce the power some way.
You still have to charge it.
That's what I mean. You still have to create the power to begin with. And obviously nuclear seems to be the best way to go there. But
And it's interesting because I forget, some fairly significant person has poo-pooed nuclear. Was it?
oh, lots of people have
Is it
done.
Elizabeth Warren has said no good or something?
Either her or Bernie has said that.
Which is insanity. I mean, if you get level 4, level whatever it is, level 3 nuclear plants, you could get rid. You could cure your carbon, whatever it was, not overnight, but 6 or 7 years, 10 years.
I think Germany just swore off nuclear as well.
Boy, what a bunch of numbnuts. That's
Meanwhile, the frogs right next door,
Yeah.
80% of their power from nuclear.
Yeah, that's right.
So I can't imagine that they're not exploring that more. But
So anyway, I was just I was going through the whole story here on the how many kids per here in the United States is 1.7 per couple, which is it's supposed
Not
to be
enough.
2.25. Yeah, that's bad. Now the next thing, moving down south, Mexico warns will not allow U.S. operations against cartels.
Okay.
This I thought was fast because today there was another big murder,
Shootout. Yeah,
another
I saw
shootout today, Sunday, the 1st, and down there were 50 people or something. There was a shootout between the cartels and the federales or something,
Yeah.
and there was dead people everywhere. And this was like 50, what they said, only 50 miles from the border, which is, that's not exactly walking distance, but
close.
still it's close enough, right? And so the president, what is amazing to me about this is that the president warned Friday that Mexico will not allow armed U.S. operations against the drug cartels in his country.
They can't allow, they can't control their own cartels. How are they going to control us?
Well, it gets even better. We're not going to allow the armed people to act in our territory. Armed foreigners cannot intervene in our territory. We will not allow that.
They're going to put up a sign?
Well, it's not only that. Why don't he just look across over in the Middle East and see how many places we've decided to go in there, our arms, and screw you.
Right.
We're coming in and we're going to eliminate people, and we're going to do and we're in all, we got 160 bases over there, and we're in those countries, and we may have been sort of invited, and but give me a break. We marched in there, and, with no thing at all, and if he thinks that he's going to hold, if Trump or anybody like that decides to send the army down there, good news.
Well,
bad news.
The image that I saw was a municipal building that was shot to pieces.
Oh, is that right?
I should have saved that image, but yeah, you could see the holes all over it, windows all shot out. It looked like the thing took 50 cal or not. It looked like it took some small arms fire, a lot of it, and 308 rounds and things like that. But
Wow.
But if they lose control down there, then I guarantee you we'll send people down there. There's no. Well, it wouldn't. Well, what's the big deal? It wouldn't be a big deal.
Well, the way the Trumpster is decided that this is a terrorist organization now, the cartels.
Okay.
And they redesignated, not just whatever, but they're terrorists. So now, as terrorists, he says that he's going to help Mexico wage war to wipe them off the face of the earth.
There you go.
How much help can you do? All right, we're coming here towards the end. I got a couple things.
Okay.
Let me just see here. Caprio.
Yeah, I've got us in the rainforest right here.
Oh, you do? Okay, the rainforest. Brazil president blames Leonardo DiCaprio for the Amazon rainforest, without offering proof. Of course, Brazilian President Bolsonaro on Friday said actor Leonardo DiCaprio had funded nonprofit groups that he claimed are partly responsible for the fires in the Amazon this year. Now, we talked before about this fires are not that big a deal. It happens every year. It's not the end of the world. It'll grow back and that kind of stuff.
These are the normal fires that
These are
happen
the
every
normal
fire
fires.
season.
Fire season, and it's interesting. So apparently he's given a lot of money, but as he came out and said the ones that you're talking about, the NGOs or whatever, the nonprofits that are, those are not the ones we did. We've contributed some other ones, but nothing to do with those people. So we're out of it.
Yeah, and some of the fires were started intentionally. Arson, which of course cuts against the argument that it's global warming or
Right. Well, not only that, because one of these people, I guess, like they did in, they're doing in Mexico, they're chopping down everything to grow avocados.
Oh, see, you got a little
wasteland
behind you there.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I just thought that it was, if you got a problem in your country, you blame somebody else, another country. The great Satan,
Works
Leonardo. Okay, so next thing, the FAA, this is always, I love this part. The FAA aims to reset plan standards for airplane seats, but the tests are being disputed. Now, one of the things that happens, I don't know, but the FAA, for safety's sake, you have to have a certain size and the airplanes, of course, in order to cram more people in there, have narrowed them and make no more foot room and stuff.
Right.
Like
You sit on his lap.
That's right. Well, what I would guess what they're planning on doing, except it wouldn't be a safety thing, but they would love to have amputees in there,
right?
Because that way they would have to have no leg room.
Yeah.
Of course, unfortunately, evacuating the plane might be a bit of a problem.
Possible.
But yeah, possible. So anyway, but can you trust? More than 700 residents have been recruited to help determine whether the space between airplane seats or the size of the seats affects their ability to evacuate the aircraft. Well, this is the FAA, right? Mm-hmm. This is a government agency. Come on. Yeah, I wouldn't trust them with anything. The fact is, your sardine, what I thought was interesting was, over the Thanksgiving holiday, flights were, even though they were canceled right and left because of the snow, apparently air travel was up 7% or something over last year. And people are willing to put up with that crap. I wouldn't.
It's not horrible except for the TSA lines and such. And then, I mean...
Well, what they found is even if you get the special clearance or whatever it is, those lines are getting longer.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Pre-qualification or whatever. Okay, the last thing I have here is two things. One, I did see a video. It was really fascinating. I saw a video of these two women in hijabs fighting over a vacuum cleaner at Walmart.
Okay.
And it was just, there was this crowd of people. I mean, they're beating each other up. Religion of peace and all this crap. And these people are tearing each other apart over a vacuum cleaner. So it's just, finally they said there was also a run on the $1.66 towels, stack of towels for $1. And, people were fighting each other, and finally the help had to step in and pull these people apart. I just think it's hysterical.
Well, they scour the globe for the worst stories.
No, they do. That's right. And, of course, there was another one that said that Macy's was empty. One of the Macy's, someplace or another, was empty because everybody had shopped online. And, you could walk in there and, hello, 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 hello.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah. And the last thing I've got is an alert from the FBI. The cybersecurity advice. They said smart TV buyers better look out. The new set TVs now include cameras. They include cameras and sometimes microphones. And sometimes they can be used for video chatting with friends and family, and some let the TV recognize who is watching, little face recognition, and suggest programming based on what they've watched before. You walk in there, you sit down, and it goes, hi. Would you like to see another murder show or something? Right. But hackers are able to access those through the internet, they think, and put through the camera and the microphone, or to change channels and volume and inappropriate videos, says the FBI. So they said,
all you have to know is a couple of things. Number one, your Siri, your Cortana, all those things are listening to you at all times. And they may be all stored at a central location somewhere for future algorithmic searching. And we also know that there have been, like we reported on that one situation years ago when the school passed out a bunch of laptops to the students, and they set the laptops to take a picture out of the camera every hour or half hour. And so, like, you had girls bringing these home and putting them in their rooms, and they're taking pictures of their room all night long and that kind of stuff, and changing and everything.
Wow.
And it was just, that was the setting that we used. Look, you have no privacy. If you think you have privacy, you're wrong. You're being tracked 17 different ways. Most of it's all for commercial enterprise, just to sell you the better product. And I have no problem with it.
No, I don't either. I wish, sometimes when I buy the product, I wish they'd stop sending me more.
Well, you can opt out of those. If you go up into the right-hand corner of the ad, if you see an ad on your feed that you don't like, you can tell it that you don't want ads like this anymore.
Okay.
And it'll give you some different ads. But you're getting the ads. But to me, I have no problem with that. What I have the problem with is, of course, the NSA style thing that Snowden revealed, which is, oh, we're going to keep all of your data in case we want to track you down,
right?
And we're the government. That's a different.
And we're here to help. I did notice that day before yesterday, Alexa fired up and said, "Could you, George, could you say a couple of sentences so I can recognize your voice?" Seriously, I mean, and I'm going,
yikes.
You know, I guess so. If somebody else was going to go in there and start to order something, it might say, "You're not George," or "You're not Jimmy." Excuse me, whatever. So anyway, that's what I had.
Okay, well, I only had like one thing real quick, and we're almost done here. And let's see, and any second there it is. Okay, we reported on this before. There's a comedian named Mike Ward in Canada, and he put one of his bits is he makes fun of this guy who is disabled, and the disabled guy got famous for being able to. He met some people because he was about to die or something like that, but he's still alive now, like years later. So that's kind of works into the guy's joke. Anyway, the guy sued Mike Ward because under Canada's laws, you can do something like that. And basically, and a couple days ago, the appeals court found that Mike Ward had violated this guy's right to equality by poking fun at him. And so they've ordered him to pay $35,000 to the guy. And he's already spent way more than that in legal fees, I think.
Yeah.
And now he's going to appeal it to the Supreme Court of Canada.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. But the appeals court was at least 2-1. But the point is that in Canada, you can't make fun of people anymore. So my guess is no more comedy, or at least a big curtailment of that, and people.
Because it's interesting here in the States when you see some of the comedians. Boy, they really rip on people.
Sure,
I mean, they
look,
just.
Here's and it's like I said about the trans thing. It's too bad if somebody makes fun of you. Too bad. That's just what it is, especially if you're a public figure. And that's, of course, the only reason they're going to do it is because you're a public figure, because otherwise the audience is not going to get the joke.
Right.
So it's fair game, and it should be, and we should have freedom of speech, but we don't, and Canada's leading the way out. And then the final thing I had was one of the things you talked about that classifying the people as terrorists. Well, one of the reasons that they do that is because the Patriot Act, people may not know, but the Patriot Act authorizes unlimited detention of people without a trial or post-sentencing, after they've served their sentence.
And I think they got somebody, didn't
they? Did. They just bagged somebody. They said, well, yeah, you served your sentence and we're going to keep you in jail anyway.
Yeah.
Pending.
I think that was the first time that particular phrase was used.
412, Section 412 of the Patriot Act.
The Patriot.
But we have other authorizations for that. See the Jimmy Rice law. See the 42 people who are still in Guantanamo Bay after 20 years. And no trial, no charges, no nothing. And so we're quickly approaching sort of the China model where the United States can detain anybody indefinitely forever with no charges.
And when all else fails, you send them to a rendition site in another country.
Yeah, exactly. But this is even saying, well, we can do it here on our soil now too. So anyway, all right, that's it.
1984, George Orwell.
Yeah, exactly. So that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. All these tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. He helps us out with this awesome music. We really appreciate it. We will be back on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th of December, Wednesday. So look for us at 4 o'clock. And we'll see you then. I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show.